Welcome to If This Bar Could Talk, a podcast about bartenders and the stories they have to tell, as well as the storied history of cocktails, spirits, and bars. I'm Blair Beavers, and here's your host, Leanne Sims.
Welcome, listeners. Today, Blair and I are at Echo Spirits Distilling Company in Grandview Heights, Ohio. We're here with our friends, Ayanna, Bill, Cara and Eric, to take a cocktail class led by Echo's beverage director and general manager, Reno. Welcome, friends.
Hey.
Derek, thanks for doing this today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
So what's in store for us today? What are we doing?
All right. So what we're going to do is the cocktail class that we do here all the time. I do a bunch of them. We essentially do these every other week. Currently on Saturdays at 1. You can book these on our website, but I do know they're sold out till June.
Wow.
So it's
so popular.
It's unique and odd to me to do this with someone out there listening. But if so, look them up, book them, and they're typically, we cap them at 8. We maybe would sneak up to 10 people. That keeps it available for me to be able to pull off, and enough so that everyone gets all the information that they want out of the class. So echospirits.com, experiences section, you can do all that kind of stuff. The class, though, at this point, I usually will kind of give you a little rundown of the scenario or the kind of vibe we're going to do in the style that we're going to fit the thing into. So the class I kind of break up into seasonal, stirred, and shaken. That would be seasonal, stirred, and shaken, which are all S's because, as you'll see throughout the class, I apparently have an affinity for alliteration, which almost was that right there. And you'll be able to get the reasons why we do that kind of stuff. And I'll ask questions as well at times. One, none of this stuff is a test. I just do that to make sure everyone's still kind of with me, and it's kind of interesting to see some of the parts that we figure out and how you would use those techniques and why you would pick the ingredients or the tools or the styles that you use to make those cocktails that you would be making at home. That being said, I like to kind of give a few examples of how the class could be beneficial to you guys. That's the most important to me. This definitely is not some speech about some absolute version of rules that I have. There will be a couple ones that I'll throw in, including, say, certain cocktails that you would never stir or shake, and a few small things, but really, it's wide open. And the class itself, or the guests that we have at the class, there's always a different reason at all the classes that any amount of the people in the class are looking for something they're trying to get out of it. And I kind of list those at the beginning so you can help guide me. And I'll do the same thing here. Sometimes it's just as simple as you want to make better cocktails for yourself at home. You like, having a drink at the end of the night or your weekend and making something good, and you just want to be better at it. That's as simple as it can be, and you're definitely going to get that from this. Sometimes it's about entertaining or kind of hosting or having parties, and I really like having some input on that. The punch part that we're going to jump into here right after this, that everyone's enjoying now, the welcome punch, is more of a sort of tutorial on a little handout sheet that you can use for going home. But that is one of the examples of stuff you can use to entertain, to have that kind of fun, to be a better entertainer and a more efficient one as well. An additional couple would be, sometimes it's just you're really interested in building a cool home bar, and that could be the spirits that you would pick for your perfect home bar. I have a preferred list of the 6 perfect main, high-proof, foolproof spirits that you would have. Your secondary liqueurs, your modifying spirits, your bitters, and then the mise en place, the tools. So you'll see in front of everyone, obviously, you have every section. If you guys didn't catch that over here as well, you got your side and then your side, so you both have 2 of everything. So everyone has their individual tools. You're only sharing the raw ingredients here. But as you're looking at all of the bar equipment that you have, I do the class in a way, including the recipes, that is meant to be, it's just the most classic. It's the most standard, the most historical accepted versions. And the tools that you would use are the ones that would typically be associated with that are recommended, that we would use in our kind of style bar. But that doesn't mean that you have to. So sometimes it's, where can I get this stuff? I love sourcing. I am really into finding stuff. I got some good thrift store and vintage store hookups, some unique online places that are both more unique and cost efficient. There's a bunch of fun places to find stuff. So I kind of get into all that stuff. There's always someone that's really interested in where that is. Also on the last page of your sheet, you'll see that I made it's a diagram sort of thing with drawings of all the equipment that we use today and a few others that won't be in there. But So I'll talk about some of the names of the things that we'll use. You don't have to memorize those. Also, if anyone is into it, if you're into the note-taking thing, I'll walk away from the microphone when I'm not talking and get you a pen. You don't have to take notes at all if not needed. But if it's that kind of stuff, you have the reference there for them. That being said, we'll also go through all these details, and if you're thinking, I don't have that, can I not make this cocktail at home? You definitely can. When we get into the stirred cocktail, we're going to talk about the julep strainer and all the rest of this equipment right here. I would also add, if you at home have a coffee mug and a soup spoon and your hand to strain the cocktail out, but you make it with the right ingredients and the right proportions, it's still going to be a good cocktail. So I use that as both an example of how don't take anything that is taught today to be an absolute, something that you can't not do. It's just the most accurate historical version, as well as the recipes. You can alter that, and I'll talk about that part when we get into the recipes. And then the last part before the quick description on the punch that I'd be remiss not to do, to talk about where we're at. I do like talking about where we're at, so Echo Spirits. I know most of you at the class today know a bit about us, but we are a distillery and a craft cocktail bar. We opened up as a distillery in 2019. Early on, we got this building here at 985 West 6th Avenue. This building became available, and our two owners. So those are Joe Bittinger and Nikhil Sharoff. They are local guys. They are guys from right here. This is not some corporate sort of setup. This is not a place with giant investors or outside influences. Most of those people are their family and friends, and left two different career paths. Joe is an IT coordinator at Ohio State in their health department or medical department, and Nikhil was a structural engineer, who actually also did that job full time while also opening this distillery until just a year and a half ago. And they're both local guys. And then lastly, it's me. I'm Derek Reno. Just so you know what you're doing here, or that I've actually been trained to some degree at this in the past. I'm our beverage director, as you know. I have done these kind of cocktail classes for years because I've run a cocktail consultancy prior for 6 years called the Reno Reserve, which I did 40 or 50 of these amongst a bunch of other events. I worked for 5 or 6 years in the Cameron Mitchell Company, including being the opening beverage director for the Pearl and creating that program. I worked at another distillery behind the bar at Middle West Spirits, which was very useful for this kind of collaboration. And then, above all, I would say my heart, my home in the kind of spirits and craft cocktail world would be the time I spent at Denmark on High, which is a beloved place to me, and shout out to Gary White and all my friends and time that we spent there. All right, let's talk about cocktails, huh?
Yeah,
all right.
let's do it.
So I do the punch at the beginning, so it's an icebreaker, so it's something that everyone can have. If everyone listening on this doesn't know, everyone's having a punch that we made with fresh Ohio cider and pear cider, our spiced rum that we make here at Echo Spirits, which was a recipe I was fortunate enough to be able to create this last year. Calvados, which is a French brandy from Boulard, a spiced cordial that's made with nutmeg, clove, cinnamon, and bay leaf, and baked apple bitters. So you're having the punch. That being said,
It's delicious, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Really good.
Appreciate it. The useful part, the sort of stuff that's educational, the fact that this is a class, is this real simple handout sheet on the top. So I don't know if this is useful for everyone. If you guys want, you can add this to it. This is a ratio. It's called the Reno ratio. Yes, that's my last name, and yeah, that's a little douchey. But my good friend Adam Lehman coined that some years ago when I was doing these cocktail classes a lot prior to working here at Echo. And it's one that I believe in and I've stuck with. So the useful part about that, it's called the base formula, the quart, and the gallon formula. Essentially, if you use this for punches, you'll be able to they will all work as long as you pick, ingredients that make sense together. Punches are a useful thing. I love them, one, because they're communal. They have a great history. This is not new. This is something that goes back to the 1700s. You're picturing port cities, especially. People from all over the world coming in and arriving with each other and having different ingredients. You might have something from the Caribbean with a unique rum. You might have saffron from India. And you did not have Amazon Prime or Amazon Fresh or whatever it is, where you can just go order anything you want. These ingredients were things people had never seen. You join together, build this punch, and break bread together and have a fun time. So I like the history of it, and I always like it as a sort of entertainment or a welcoming option. But if you're going to do that, the key trick is to do the base formula, which, sorry, microphone, has an easy testing ground. So essentially, this is a cocktail that you're going to shake. If you took any spirit, so main spirit, I have the term there, that would be your vodka, your gin, your whiskey, your cognac, any of those like regular, high-proof, notable spirits. Modifying spirit, that's, the common term would be mixers. All kinds of things like the Amaros here that we have that we love. The easy examples would be things like orange liqueurs like Triple Sec and Grand Marniers and Cointreau. And then Aperol when it comes into Amaros. All those kind of secondary things, including vermouths. They just add a spirit aspect to the cocktail, but also a bit more flavor and depth to it. If you made this same punch we had today and you left out the Calvados, the French apple brandy, and just add spiced rum, it's still going to be good. It's still going to work. It's going to be a little bit more one note. So that's what that means, and that's why I recommend that. You can there's so many options to change the flavor. A limoncello or a limoncello will also add a lot of different things to it. Then you get into your juices, whether it's citrus or cider or tropical things like or pineapple or guava or mango or passion fruit. Then you get into bitters, which we'll talk about bitters when we do the old-fashioned next, but a very, very important thing to me and something I'll expound on a little bit at that part. And then it's finished with, and then obviously a syrup. You need your sugar source. You have to have that balance on it. Plug that in, shake it, make sure it's tasty. If that works, all you have to do the quart and gallon formula is add that formula right into the amount that's already added to there, and then you'll see in the rather long paragraph I noticed that there's an amount of water you have to add to that, and that's boring. I know this doesn't sound interesting, probably definitely not to listen to, but when you shake or stir a cocktail, you're adding dilution. You're adding a water proportion you need. It's not an equivalent to watering down a cocktail. It's necessary. If you have to add that because that's what you would have equated when you shook that cocktail. So if you batch that big amount, add that amount of water that's already ratioed out for you, and you have a punch, and that's it. Brilliant. And you can do a bunch of stuff with it.
I have a quick question about the punch. If
you're
batching it out, but you're not shaking it to dilute it, you're adding water.
Yeah.
Does that change it?
It does a little bit, yes. I mean, it's not an absolute perfect scenario. If you really wanted to, you could get a large container like a Cambro and build a large amount. Like you just multiply that single cocktail times how many ever servings you want. Obviously, that serving would be an entire cocktail. That's not the same as what fits in those little punch glasses, so the vessel changes. But if you put that and then put ice into that vessel and somehow just, you just held that firmly and shook it, it will work better because when it comes to citrus, and we'll definitely talk about this when we do the shaken part, you want to agitate that acidity. You're not necessarily doing that by just adding water to it, but when it comes to a punch, it's the most efficient way.
Got it.
If you want the absolute best flavor way, you could absolutely shake a large amount of that or sections of it at a time and then pour that into a batch.
Okay.
And that's definitely better.
Would stirring do any good?
Yeah, stirring would. It definitely would as well. It's gonna agitate it less, and that's gonna be key terms we talk about on these two cocktails when we go into the styles. But you would see the difference. But if you're making a large amount, especially something that you're storing to serve later, this is the best version, and it works. Plus, you have the base formula to test it with. It will always come. If that tastes good, then the next one's gonna taste good. Any other questions on that?
I think we're ready.
All right, so this is the transition into the fun part, especially the fact that you have to quit listening to me ramble on here. We're going to get into the hands-on stuff here, and I do lead in with a few fun questions on these parts, and this is likely to be one that's going to have an answer that's known because I get some very fascinating ones, and I ask this every single time. So I break the class into the next two parts into stirred and shaken. And that's a very important rule when I'm doing the classes, especially for a lot of our class attendees who are just definitely not like at home enthusiasts, I guess would be the term. This is not always known, and sometimes they like making stuff at home, and they might have interesting ingredients or some leftover juices from a party that they had before, or just stuff that's in the refrigerator, or they go to the grocery and just get some unique stuff, and you're not sure how to use it. So I try to have this lend itself to being something that's useful to knowing what to pick. And I'm going to break multiple fourth walls here that some bartenders don't. It's extremely easy. When you're deciding to shake or stir a cocktail, 98, I change it every week. 97, 98, it's right there. It's virtually all the reason that you would ever shake versus stir a cocktail, there's one category of an ingredient that is the reason you do. Does anyone know what it is? What is, so it's, picture, citrus, first try ever! Shout out Bill! I was going to give you a high five, but I won't. That is it. The number one answer I get at the classes typically is like Prosecco or soda or something carbonated, which oddly, no offense to anyone who's ever hearing this who was at the class before, the ultimate thing you would never shake. You're going to have a lot of combustible trouble with that. But it's a unique, so it's citrus. And citrus is in massive amounts of your cocktails, more than you even know probably, especially lime and lemon. Orange being very, very mildly used, unless you're into Harvey Wallbangers or tequila sunrises, and I don't know why you would be. Actually, the best thing with actual orange juice is a mimosa. I don't think there's anything that beats it. It's a weird thing in the craft cocktail world that oranges we use relentlessly for peels because they're very essential, including the cocktail we're about to make. And the juice is just this thing that we have and try to figure out stuff to do with. But grapefruit as well being on that. It's citrus, yeah. So you want to agitate that. You want to shake that. You really, really want to beat that cocktail up. When it comes to stirred cocktails, which we're about to do, it's the opposite. So if you've just got spirit-based stuff, essentially all those old like prohibition, pre-prohibition cocktails, which is a weird term that we use in our industry, as if people stopped drinking during prohibition, because they definitely didn't. But the old school stuff, your Sazeracs, your Manhattans, your Martinis, your Negronis, all these sort of cocktails that have basically just spirits, bitters, and maybe a little bit of a sugar source, you want to maintain a certain composition to that, and I'll explain that part. When it comes to the shaken part, we'll get into that when we do the daiquiri. You want to do the total opposite. The 2 to 3% that I left out would be egg white cocktails, things, highly emulsified ingredients, egg whites, heavy creams, and then also other tropical juices, pineapples and guavas and those kind of things. That would also, and it's not citrus, but you're going to shake those kind of things. You want both a look that is frothy and opaque and more agitated. You want that. When it comes to stirred cocktails, you both want to protect the flavor, which I'll explain last, and then you also want a look that has a clarity-driven, a kind of gossamer look to it. You want it to have a style. So style fits into some of the stuff that we'll teach today. Pick whatever style you like moving forward, but I'll show you why. After we do the old-fashioned, when we do both cocktails, I do a little exposition, make it, and then you guys make it right after so that I can help and walk around and pay attention to what we're making. You'll see the difference, and I will then shake the cocktail that I stirred and show you, and I'll show you how different it looks. And every single class we do this at, it's kind of it blows people's minds. You didn't realize how much it changes and how important that it is. So that's the entire sort of lead-in to that part. The stuff you have in front of you, we're going to use these mixing glasses everyone on their left has. We have the actual glass ones here. This is a julep strainer. So the tools that we're going to be using, julep strainers are the more historical. This is the original cocktail strainer. It's efficient. It's going to keep the ice out of stuff that you're using, and it was the original one. Later we get to the Hawthorne strainer, which we'll be using for the shaking cocktail, and that's the two that you would typically use and associate with these. Same sort of thing as earlier. If at home you just have a Hawthorne strainer, so it's still going to work. A couple reasons beyond history is that this is much less likely to chip these glasses, and then you have your bar spoons. So I have two different versions up there. If these at the class, typically there's people that are interested in getting these kind of things, so I give two examples, and I put one of each on both. This size here, this is the 12.5-inch length. This is the one that I prefer. This is what I always use, kind of the middle one. The other one is a little bit smaller. That's a 9-inch bar spoon. When it comes to the tools, I do always like to throw in this tidbit because there's some fun information that I think is interesting. The true end for stirring on these cocktails is this end without the spoon. Other craft bartenders of our style will definitely debate this. This has been a thing for a while, but historically, it's not true. This is that. This end is originally intended for a measuring device. So you'll see certain cocktails that will ask for a bar spoon of something, perhaps like the amount of absinthe in a Sazerac rinse or something like that. That's where that will come from. It equals somewhere around 1/8 of an ounce, give or take. It's a little bit less, but that's historically what it's used for. I do still stir with this in the glass because there is a kind of fun reward for learning how to do that good, but So use whatever end that you like, and I'll show you the versions that you can do here either way. All that really matters is the amount of times that you stir it, the right recipe, and the right amount of ice. So we're going to use the old-fashioned today going into the cocktail. Oh, and I forgot. Sorry, there's two things. One in front of you, the most important thing actually, and I do this every single class. Forget to say this and have to pause and do it, so this is an accurate recording. Those are jiggers. So every single cocktail that we're going to make, it's important to have the right ratio, the right amount of stuff. This is definitely not a class for margins and bar numbers and finances. It's not about that. It's about just having a proper cocktail when it comes to the amount of stuff you put in it. I don't know how to free pour. I can't flip bottles behind my back and catch them and free pour it into a glass. I've never worked anywhere where I wasn't using a jigger, but these are what you're going to use today. So all you have to remember for using them, and I have two examples. So everyone that has the bell-shaped one, this is the only style that I use. This is my preference. This is a Leopold. It's more ergonomic. It's more fitting to me. I just kind of like the style. The other one is a Japanese jigger. Those are the same size, and I'll tell you the ounces on them so you know what you're doing with them. If you're sourcing those kind of things, that can be sometimes confusing because the Japanese jiggers, they have a kind of style that is like very, very clinical, very structured, and there are multiple sizes. You might see different ones, including, I keep this back here just for this. This is half that size, and there are two others. You'll often see 4 of them in a row in Japanese-style bartending where it's used to be sometimes all at once in your hand, which I also cannot do. The only thing you have to know today is either one that you decide to use, the large size, the large bell, or the large conical side on the Japanese jigger is 2 ounces to the top, not to the top line, to the very, very brim, and then the opposite on the other side to 1 ounce. The little lines inside will tell you it goes down, and as the aforementioned story earlier, they go down in 25% or 1/4 increments. So the line on the big side would be 1.5 ounces. The line on the small side would be 0.75 or 3/4. Mm-hmm. The old-fashioned is going to let us use both sides of this a little bit, and both jiggers are the exact same. Okay. And then the last part that I shockingly didn't forget, and it's not really a tool, but I can't express how useful they are if you're going to make a lot of stuff, is that all the bottles have pour spouts in them. If anyone wants, take one out and try to pour it and see how it's much slower, it's much less efficient, it's much more non-controlled. So a non-cool thing to talk about, but an essential thing to get. All right, so we're going to make the cocktail. The old-fashioned we pick because, well, there's a couple reasons. One, I can't pick everything. I'd love to have the class set up where I have 2 or 3 options per section, but as you can see, this is a large amount of stuff. We open up later. It kind of runs into each other, and I've tried before, and it becomes a little unhinged. There's a lot of stuff everywhere. I picked the old-fashioned, not entirely because it's made with rye that we make here at Echo Spirits, so yeah, that's part of it. But it is, I would say, at every bar that I've ever worked at, it is the most ordered cocktail we've ever had. The most ordered cocktail in the world. Anyone know what that is by chance?
Is it the Manhattan?
No, but you got the right first 2 letters.
Martini.
Still right first 2 letters. First 3.
Margarita.
Margarita. It is, and it's for decades. It's the most ordered cocktail worldwide. However, in our sort of setting, in the kind of style bars I've been at, the old-fashioned is definitely the most ordered. Outside of like specialty, like our own cocktails, and usually even beating that. And it is done a lot of ways. So when we get into that, I'm going to just make it, and then as we're having it, I'll talk about some of the other versions that exist and that are perfectly fine, and whatever version you like, that's what you should make. And we're going to use rye whiskey on this cocktail because it is the accurate spirit, honestly, even if we didn't make it, that was used in these classic cocktails. The Manhattan, the Sazerac, the Vieux Carré, these were all rye whiskey cocktails. Bourbon came later. If you like bourbon, perfectly fine. Bourbon's going to have more caramel, more toffee, more sweetness to it. Rye's going to lend itself to a more peppery and slightly stronger note to it. Obviously you can get in other whiskeys with Irish and Scotches as well. We're going to use ours. The sugar source, everyone has one that says Demerara. Truth be told, this is turbinado, which is useful because those are both sugars made from sugar cane, from raw sources. Turbinado is made from the first pressing of sugar cane, so it's going to have a little less toffee and caramel sweetness than Demerara because it's the first pressing turned into a refined sugar. Demerara is a few steps further. Both of those are accurate. Like if you get sugar in the raw, the brown sugar, like at Starbucks, that's what we make this. Then this is simple syrup. Everyone knows what simple syrup is, which is 50%, essentially a half and half to sugar and water. You can do rich simples with a different proportion, but we're going to use that because it's the most efficient versus sugar cubes, which you won't find anywhere. You won't find raw sugar cubes barely online. It's not really a thing that exists. And it's a bit antiquated, and I don't recommend it, and this is the quicker version. And then the two bitters. We talked about bitters earlier. We're going to use orange bitters because an old-fashioned has to have orange in it. I'm not going to do it today, but we can talk about it. The other 100% equal to me, equivalent, traditional, original version of an old-fashioned uses the orange peel only, muddled with the sugar and the bitters, and then the rye whiskey. I actually love that just as much. Actually, at Denmark, where we mentioned earlier, that's how we always used to serve this one. We use orange bitters here just because it's a cleaner, it's the most clean kind of crystalline, classic sort of style. Pick either of those. The one part you're going to wonder about here, if anyone is, if you're wondering where the cherry is, there's no cherry in an old-fashioned. It's become I think probably something that happened because of the success of the Manhattan, and that uses a cherry as a garnish, and they kind of got mashed up over the years. And then you might see the fruit salad version that I call an old-fashioned, which is the places who take the whole orange wedge and a cherry and just muddle all this mush up into it, and you get this big pulpy sort of thing. Definitely a sort of, I think, Mad Men, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's how they make it on that show, so that probably didn't help. We'll mention another place when it comes, another movie or film that has kind of affected the cocktail history thereafter, but those are the ingredients you're going to use in this cocktail. We have Regan's for the orange bitters today. There's tons of orange bitters. I recommend these. Angostura, this is an aromatic bitter. So Angostura is a brand, aromatic is the style. But this is something from the early mid-1800s, Trinidad and Tobago. Secret ingredients, but like all bitters, it's got barks and herbs and roots and spices. It's absolutely delicious, and it's quintessential. You cannot make a Manhattan, an old-fashioned, or a Vieux Carré, or a Sazerac without this bitter. It's the king of bitters. If there's only one bitter at your local store or at your home, it's this one. But essentially, think of bitters as the spice cabinet for your bar. So if you got your basil and oregano and all the rest for your cooking, you have bitters for your bartending. And those are the ingredients. The difference between simple syrups made with raw sugar, whether Demerara or Turbinado, and white refined sugar, which we're going to use coming up next, is just that it's a richness of flavor. If you use regular simple syrup in your old-fashioned, it's still going to work. It's just going to have a little bit less depth of flavor. Yeah. All right, so here's how we're going to... You guys ready to actually make a cocktail?
Do it.
All right. Now, this happens every class. I'm just about parched by this point and really annoyed by myself for talking that long, but we're ready now. I've got these little pedestals so that everyone can see it. You guys can see?
Yes.
Yep, can see. All right. So some of this will be a bit loud here. So when building a cocktail, whether shaken or stirred, you want to build the cocktail first. Don't put your ice in first. There's a couple different reasons. It's because something you could get distracted. It's best to do this also if you're building multiple cocktails in one vessel, which you can definitely do. This will help you have the right amount, the right formula in there. So you would I would typically start with your sugars or your bitters or your citrus if you're doing a shaking cocktail, because they're less valuable. If you mess up, if you forgot what you were putting in there, if you put too much or you weren't sure, it's easy to dump out a little bit of sugar or lime. It's harder to dump out 2 ounces of a delicious rye whiskey. So I would typically go in that order. Behind the bar, we definitely do it in that style. So again, this is going to be the small side of your jigger. I have the recipe listed here with a 1/2 ounce of your raw sugar of Demerara, which is just going to be the middle line. The one thing I would add to that, that's kind of the accepted version. If you have the idea that maybe you like your old-fashions a little bit more boozy, you can always start slower. Go with quarter, with 0.25 ounces of the Demerara. You can always add to a cocktail when you're messing around with formulas. You can't take away. So that's just a general thing I would always use. If you're not sure, start with less. Afterwards, if you taste it and you're like, ooh, that's not quite there, I need it a little bit sweeter, you can add it. If you put too much, you can't take it away. You can only equal it out by adding more of everything else, which might be fun still. So we're just going to take these and go to that middle line, to the 1/2 ounce there. I'll stick with the original. And I'm sorry, I borrow your guys. Then the bitters. All right, and this part, this will be the best use for this ever, that this is an audio thing, because there's a hard way to teach the amount of bitters that you would put into a cocktail. We're talking milliliters. No one's going to measure that. That's not really something that you can envision. So I have this verbal thing that I do, and it's going to be as follows. So these bottles, these are Woozies, WOOZY. These are the kind of bitters that come with these built into them. They have the little hole in the top, and they're for dashing. There are other styles. I won't walk away from the microphone, but you can see down there, some bitters come with droppers. Droppers are more refined. You can control the amount. And there are some other dashers that you can get that have a little bit more conical style that you can control with. The trick, and at the class, everyone always does this, is kind of treats these like the way they would maple syrup or something and kind of holds it sideways and just does this. You don't want to do that. You want to commit to it. It's a dash. Here's the amount that I put in. I can give it to you in milliliters, but I have created this thing that I just do that is verbal, and I know it's goofy, but here's how it goes. So this is the Angostura, straight up and down. Don't do it sideways, and you just go like this. That's it. You will remember it. And then the same for the orange bitters. Each of those, it's kind of like 1.5, 1.5. So so if you got anyone need a pen? That go. It's so that's the amount. That is a good starting point. You can keep refining this. You can. I recommend do it out loud. It's perfectly fine. Let's hear it. But put it. You don't want to just go too light. But if you do, you can taste the cocktail, and you'll find out afterwards if you have not enough. Yeah. And then the rye whiskey, the piece de resistance, you're going to go with 2 1/4 ounces, which is the recommended old school recipe. It also lets us use both sides of the jigger, so you get used to being able to go with both of them. So you're going to go all the way to the tippy top of the large size, flip it over, and then you just get that little bit extra down to that bottom line there. Then your ice that is in between both of every guys out here that you'll share. Ice as well is a huge thing. It's very, very important to cocktails. The style ice, we'll get into that when you're serving it over and how we make that. But this is cold draft ice, which is a machine that makes these. Essentially, we call these 1x1s. The best cocktail ice for shaking and stirring. You can also get silicone molds that you can make these at home pretty much everywhere now. Better than anything, if you're lucky enough to have the refrigerator that has the part that gives you ice out of the front, like a dream goal of success for me that I'll have one day.
How much ice do we put in?
So that's the key thing. Good question, man. Is most of it. You want to go about 75 or 80% cold. Don't underdo the ice. It's easy to just put ice up to the bottom level of where your ingredients are and think that that's enough. You want to really, really fill it up most of the way, and that's a big reason why you would add it second. Then once you've got all that added in, also on the ice, if you have that refrigerator thing that does it, those are good. The larger size, chipped ice or party ice, like gas station ice, it's the worst, especially for it's not great for shaking or stirring, and it's definitely not good for serving over. Everyone has always agreed with this at the class. Ever been at a wedding and you go get an old fashioned or a whiskey or something with that chipped ice and it tastes like just whiskey or water with a little bit of whiskey in it pretty quickly. These just hold up. The fortitude of the ice holds up better. So when stirring, again, you can use either end you want. This is going to be very easy, and that's why it's meant to be. If you want to do this style, the trick is to go along the outside of the glass like that, or the mixing glass like that. And in slow motion, it would look like this. I'm just passing it back and forth between these two fingers. I used to have a bartender who would hold it backwards and do it like this. Perfectly fine as well. All that really matters is the amount of stirring. You want to stir it about 30 to 35 rotations. I'm a little obsessed with the number 33, so that's what I do. And in full speed, it would look like this. And you'll see as you do that, the ice is going to kind of settle down into there, so you're going to see how quickly that's going to equal into the cocktail. And I'll move that to the side, put the glass up here. And then we're going to serve the cocktail over these perfectly crystal clear, handmade ice cubes that I do always brag a little bit about our bar and about the style here that we make from beginning to end. We make from scratch. We freeze them, we cut them, we do every single step. There are places, there are companies, there are even other bartenders, great bartenders in our city who are selling this ice for often it's around $1.50 or $2 for a single ice cube, which is amazing. It's very, very classy ice. But I would add, it's water. And if you want to know the technique for how to make crystal clear big ice blocks, I do this at every class. I'll tell you exactly how, and it's not that hard. It takes time, it takes maintenance, it takes being on top of it, but it's really not that difficult a thing to do. I couldn't serve ice that wasn't in this style in our sort of place just because it's definitely an aesthetic that matters to us. A lot of bartenders maybe wouldn't admit that, but it does have a flavor value that is better. I don't think it's as large as sometimes we like to say, but it's much nicer. If anyone have the big silicone molds that make the 2x2 ice cubes at home, I use those at home. They work fine, but I call them marshmallow ice because they come out really white and kind of it's less sexy and a little bit less nice flavor. But the most important thing is that on these kind of cocktails that you're going to serve over ice, the opposite of that being up, which we will talk about on the daiquiri, is that it holds up that backbone of that cocktail. It's not going to melt, but it's going to stay cold. It's going to look nice. If you use the other ice, it's going to be perfectly fine, as long as I recommend the bigger ones. So then you're going to take your julep strainer, either this way or that way, either way, and then you're going to, whatever way you're comfortable. Someone holds it different ways all the time, but you can see how this versus the coils of the Hawthorne strainer could chip your mixing glass real easy. So you're just going to pour it over, and you'll see that this is what you're looking for. As soon as you go over that ice, you almost can't tell it's in there. It's got that beautiful, sexy, clear look, and it's going to have the cocktails look, which is that kind of clarity, that gossamer sort of look. And in the finish, 360-degree cocktails are definitely very important to me and to our bar here. Garnishes have a lot of importance. Both I like the look, I like the style. There's a lot of fun to have with it, and there are certain ones that need it, including this one. The orange peel is essential. Not like say the Negroni, if anyone's familiar with that. That cocktail is not a Negroni without an orange peel. Like that is both a garnish and a flavor. Same with this. So all that really matters is that you get an orange peel and express it over it. If you've not used these before, you're uncomfortable, the best way that we would do is to express it over top of the glass. All these little orange oils will shoot out everywhere. One of these times I'm going to get a little spotlight so you can see. But that's the easiest way. Sometimes at the class someone tries that and then that happens. That little piece falls off. If that does, these are the easiest ways, whether you put it on a surface or just right against yourself. Take the peeler and if you just kind of go left to right and just go slowly, because you want a large peel if you're uncomfortable with the other way. That above all is what you want. And for the thing I'm going to show you next, I'm going to do two at once. So you get a nice long peel. You want that peel. You don't want the white part underneath the peel. That's the pith, which when I have that on my peel, it really pithes me off. No? Hey, when I was in second grade, I had to go to speech class and say like 100 times without going to get out of speech class. So leave me alone in my second grade trauma. All that really matters is that you want those oils. If it doesn't matter how it looks, so what? Twist it, rim it, and put it in the cocktail. However, it's a class. I might as well send you guys home with something useful here. Also, everyone has cutting boards and peelers in between each of you here. You could take, I'm going to borrow this knife. Easy thing to do, the first step, and I know if you can't see, I'm using these as a little cutting board. Just take the knife and cut off, you're manicuring it, so you're just kind of cutting off those little rough edges from the peel. Easiest one to do is this rhombus, which just makes this little shape here. Then you have this nice little ribbon, same thing, looks nicer. You could also take that same ribbon, cut a little slit in the middle, bend it in half, and if you put that on the edge, then you've got this nice little ribbon. And if you really want to have fun, which is, and I'm walking away for a second, I do this for all of our cocktails here, and it's a discovery we've had, scrapbooking scissors. You can use these, and it's easier. And you get this kind of, that was a little rough there. You get this kind of cool little ribbon look on it as well. So those are just things you can do for fun. All that matters when it comes down to the cocktail and the flavor is that you need a peel on it. I'm going to stick with that one. And we have an old-fashioned.
Cheers.
So as you fill your cocktail, the glass, you should have that little bit of space at the top. That's called the wash line. So where you fill your cocktail up to, that's going to be, you don't want them to be all the way to the very, that one's a little sideways, there you go, to the very, very tippy top. But the size of the ice that you cut, and we cut these by hand. Actually, Eric, our bartender, does most of them, and he's very good at it. And preferred that way. Because you could use a saw, you can use like a miter or bandsaw and have these perfect squares. I like the fact that this is clearly made from somebody. So that's the kind of style that we have, and those are made in-house like that. Oranges in front. What's that?
What does he use to cut them? Just like a saw?
Yeah, well, so we have this a little hand saw, And we do use that to score it, and then the rest is a serrated knife. It's just, and you can see the lines on the sides of all the glass. Looking good. Any questions as you're making them? Look at that. Ayanna, that's a perfect wash line right there.
Do you have a preferred like peeler brand or anything like that?
I like these peelers that we have because you can replace those blades, and I get the preference to people usually comes down to whether you like using the type that it's kind of like this on the side. It's like the handle and the blade faces the same way.
Yeah.
Some people like using that style. I won't lie. When I first started craft bartending, that was what we had, and I cut my hands so many times the first month that I have been averse to it. But some people have preferences for those. You can also get the same style here, which, since people are listening, I guess is kind of like a razor, that you would use, the style of it, the shape of it. You can get those plastic ones that are just like potato peelers for the kitchen for like $1.79 at the grocery or whatever. They actually work great, but they're gonna get dull a couple months in if you use them a lot.
Yeah.
These can be replaced, but they both work.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers indeed.
Oh, cheers. Cheers.
Yeah, and ask anything you like as we do. I'll take this cocktail then, and I'll show you as promised the shaken version of it and how different it would be.
Oh yeah, that's delicious.
Really good. So as you're tasting them, you say I like a little bit more orange, add a little bit more orange bitters. If you want it to have a little bit more depth to it, those Angostura bitters are going to have a couple flavors. They're going to have sort of baking spices, a little bit of mintiness. You can add more, and I can tell that everyone went pretty moderate because if you use more, it's going to have more of an amber color to it, and you can tell when you're messing around with it. And you can just keep screwing around with that cocktail like that. Also with Angostura bitters, do be warned, if you spill it on your clothing, it's like a Dexter murder scene. It will not come out. It's like blood everywhere, but it's got a lot of value in the flavor of it. And then the Demerara or the Turbinado or the simple syrup will change that as well. The part earlier that I mentioned that I will use one now, when we're going to use things that you could extrapolate from this cocktail to have use for you later. This recipe essentially leads to. Will work for lots of stirred cocktails. So say you switched out the rye whiskey and you were into mezcal or a cognac, then you could sub that, and you could make a simple syrup with jalapenos or chipotle or some sort of spice to it and use that with mezcal or tequila. You could add a different bitter. You could add a lavender bitter to this and have it change. So that exact formula with different ingredients will let you a lot of stirred stuff. If you have your spirits and your sugars and your bitters, you will be able to make a lot of stuff from that. And this comes from the Sazerac that I think we were mentioning earlier off air, that's the first cocktail. It's essentially the first description of a cocktail, which is the combination of bitter, sugar, water, and spirits. The Old Fashioned came out of that sort of realm as well. So this is kind of the genesis of that entire history. And a lot of stirred cocktails you have really are riffs on this style, and one of many, very few. Oh, that's right. I'll shake this for you while I'll show you guys how different it would be if you haven't ever seen this. Any questions as I do that? That's Jesse, by the way. All right, so this is the Old Fashioned. If you had shaken it, and this is why, this is meant to exemplify how important that is, it would look like this. That is literally it's not just the exact same, it's the exact same cocktail, the one I just made.
So frothy.
And that, you don't want, that looks, if someone told you that was like an orange creamsicle, blah, whatever sort of thing, it would be delicious. Not as an Old Fashioned. And then a key part I forgot, and the most important as we're finishing this part, when it comes to stirring cocktails, the terms that we typically use are you don't want to bruise the spirit, and that is usually used for gin. So the martini being the other quintessential kind of like standard stirred cocktail, which, if anyone's picturing right now, James Bond in your head, that's thanks to the movies. The books don't do that. That is not what James Bond drank or what he ordered. I would also guess, much like earlier, that us dudes, males, we're idiots, and we probably were extra idiotic in the 60s, and made a movie and thought, let's make them sound tough, and have them say shaken, not stirred, and it has screwed up this thing forever. If there was one cocktail above all there is in all the cocktails in the world, the martini is the one you should never, ever, ever shake. And the martini, by definition, the only thing that is a martini is gin, dry vermouth, and in either a twist of lemon or an olive garnish. Nothing else is that by definition. But the term martini has been anything in a stem glass, with bubble gum and pomegranate and nerds candy teeny. It's just went that way. And then when we talk about the daiquiri, there's a history of why those terms got used that way. But that would be the ultimate one you don't want to. So when it comes to that cocktail, not bruising the spirit is a term used because gin has these delicate, these floral natures, these botanicals that you don't want to bruise. You want to get it nice and really cold and chilled and boozy, and you want to taste that. When it comes to spirits made with aged ingredients like whiskeys that are aged in oak barrels, you want the reward of the aging, whether it's the amount of time or the oak or the temperature or the grains, obviously, that are used in it. You want to be able to taste that, and you will not taste that in this cocktail right here that has just been destroyed. I talk about molecules in these classes a lot, and when it comes to the way we make crystal clear ice, if anyone's curious about that still, I'll tell you. And when it comes to shaking cocktails, you are really sending those molecules all over the place, and you want that when you shake stuff. You don't when you are using stirred ingredients like this.
Derek, can we straw taste that?
Yeah,
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, pass it around. I'll grab you some from my fancy straw section here that I made from, I think these are made for bonsais, but I turned them into like little magnetic holders if anyone wants. Put them.
Yeah, it's not as boozy like it's supposed to be.
Really?
Sounds weird.
No, and the foam just tastes weird.
It doesn't even taste like
And then, compared to it, it's not that it's going to taste bad, it's just not, you're getting a lot less reward. Yeah, okay, I was being nice.
No, it's weird.
Yeah, don't shake that. Definitely don't shake a Manhattan. That is a cocktail I've seen shaken for me at a few bars 3 times in the last 2 years, and it's
Did you
I'm
make
not.
them remake it?
No, I'm not that. I don't
for you.
usually say anything. Depends on where I'm at.
It's a tragedy.
But yeah, a couple of them were at places where it was a bit surprising, and it definitely still happens. Yeah, if you see that,
Shake your maracas, shake your tail feathers, don't shake my Manhattan.
See, now that's the second thing you should put on a t-shirt. That would work perfectly.
A martini again. It's gin. It's what else?
Yeah, So martini is a weird one to describe because it also can sound like a snotty thing. We often get vodka requests as well. That can still be a martini, a vodka martini, but the original definition of that cocktail is gin, dry vermouth. It's a polarizing flavor too as well. Some people use a little bit less, a little bit more. Winston Churchill had this famous quote that he used to say that because a lot of people mainly just want a bunch of cold gin, and he would say to stir X amount of gin, get it extremely cold, take the bottle of dry vermouth, and put it next to the glass so that the sun would shine through it and just imbue it with it. He didn't want any of it in there. So dry vermouth has this distinct sort of sour flavor depending on how you use it.
I love
And since I actually remembered this week, since vermouth came up, it's not technically in anything we're making today, but it's turned out to be a useful thing to teach at the classes. A lot of the reason people don't like vermouths, whether it's sweet vermouth in your Manhattans and such or dry vermouth, is that you often might get it from a bar who leaves it sitting out in their well. And it's not necessarily a known thing. You have to refrigerate your vermouths.
I'll do this.
It's essential. They're shelf stable when you buy them. Once you open them, it's not going to go. It's a fortified wine, so it's going to get weird soon. But you've got 2 or so, maybe 3 weeks, where it's going to be fine. If you're at a bar and you're just going through it all the time, so be it. But we keep ours in our refrigerator at all times, and if you don't, it gets very odd and sour, and it's often the reason that people think they don't like that ingredient, and it's not because of the ingredient itself, it's because of the way it was stored. So if you got vermouths or sherries, there's a couple other ingredients like that as well. Once they're open, put them in the refrigerator. And if you do, you got the whole, it's fine for the whole next year. It's perfectly fine.
The other thing that we've found is that the vermouth that you buy, the brand, matters. There's a lot of bad vermouth out there that should never be consumed.
Yeah, there's good value versions. There's for like $8.99 or so. There's a brand called Noli Pratt. I like it. I think it's good. We use Dolan here typically, which is in about twice that. It's 15 or 16 or so. You can get into Carpano Antico, which people really, really love. It lends itself to a lot of value in a Manhattan. It can be distracting in, say, like a Negroni. It can be too much, and it's double that. So it's $34 or $5 version. Via is another great brand, and I won't mention brands of the other ones, but basically the ones that are like $4.99 or $5.99, just skip those.
So I have a question. When you're ordering a martini, so I love a gin martini. I love vermouth. So I know when you don't love vermouth, you say dry. I want a dry martini. Do I say wet because I like a lot of vermouth?
No.
What do I say?
That's a great question, and I have never gotten asked that at the class, and it's such a confusing history. When you order a martini and you want it dry or extra dry, you want less vermouth. You want more gin. It's because the London style gins are dry gins, and you basically kind of like that Winston Churchill story. You want a lot of the gin flavor and much less vermouth. Like sometimes a bar spoon, apropos, or less, or sometimes a dash. You can use a little atomizer or just a little dropper to put just a tiny little bit in, and that's what you would want if you say dry. It doesn't mean extra dry vermouth, which is definitely confusing since it's literally in the name of the product. That's a good question. Yeah, that's never gotten asked. And I haven't told that story for a while, but that is unquestionably a thing that gets forgotten. We usually lead with asking, I just will say, what's your gin of preference? And it lets me know if someone then says, oh, I was preferring vodka. It's our way of finding out without being, we're not like poking, we're just trying to find out, but trying to keep it accurate. So this part is saved for the last because of the alliteration. It's fun, and this is also the most fun to finish with. It also is a little bit easier to keep track of. Sometimes at the class, we've had a few, and it kind of gets a little lost. Really easy when it comes to the ingredients, and we've kind of done some precursors to what we're leading into. So we're shaking. Now we know that we're mainly doing that because there's citrus in here. It's the easiest thing to determine. If that's in it, it's absolute. There's no cocktail that has citrus that you wouldn't shake. There's a few that I feel like you could get a little bit of away with it, like maybe a French 75, that a little bit of the lemon because you got all the Prosecco and the bubbles. You maybe could, but I still would, and that is because you want to agitate that ingredient, and that's the term. I didn't invent that. It's where that same molecule thing. You want the total opposite. You want the cocktail to look like what we made the shaken old fashioned look like. You want froth, you want non-clarity, you want opaqueness, and you want more volume. You want more of that to be opened up for a more aggressive shake. Yeah, it is. It's a little bit of a little laboratory. Yes, blinded me with science, or my dumb Swahili stories. The cocktail, though, that we're going to get into, and since we kind of have a little bit of a head start on why we're shaking it, is a daiquiri. And I always ask it at the class. This class is not going to have this reaction, but I usually ask if anyone looked ahead at the list and saw that there was a daiquiri, if they were wondering if I was going to bring a blender out, which I don't guess any of you were, but if this is useful for the recording, typically most of the class is nodding very strongly in approval that that's what they thought. And that's another one of those kind of things like we were talking about the martini. The history of that sort of stuff kind of got convoluted. I don't know the exact answer. A lot of these things don't have exact answers, but rum had a period of time. It's got a great history and a great historical aspect to it, but it also had a period of time where it was not in favor and cheap and easy, and we were in the 80s and 90s, and you got TGI Fridays and Chili's in these places, and you're making these frozen blender drinks that can be great. It's also not like it's not like it's not good. It's not a daiquiri, though. I think that just the history of the daiquiri was something that they were aware of. They used rum because it was cheap to put into their machines and make strawberry daiquiris, and it just kind of got associated with that. However, that's not a daiquiri. That's my one other firm point on that. It's because of that history. The daiquiri, though, is a great cocktail with a great history. It comes from the late 1898 from the Floridita bar in Cuba. A lot of the great rum stuff comes from Cuba. It's got a great rum history. Also associated a lot with the greatest of the bohemian sort of artists. Has anyone ever seen like Midnight in Paris, the great Woody Allen movie, which my favorite director ever? It's got Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and all the rest of them, and they're drinking all of these kind of drinks like this. Hemingway himself was a huge daiquiri fan. He drank all of these kind of things a lot. Also a legend, maybe the most famous drinker of all time. He's up there, like top level. So much so that eventually there was a version of the daiquiri that became the Hemingway daiquiri that was created for him because he loved it so much, but he was diabetic. He shouldn't be drinking it, and it's a great alternate to this cocktail. But the cocktail itself is both useful because, one, yes, it's made from white rum, which we make. This is the first product we made at Echo Spirits. And you can get different components out of different rums, and I'll do that as we finish and give you some examples of how you can extrapolate this cocktail. That's only 2. I think I'm going to end on 2. I don't think I'll get to 3. You will be able to get different flavors out of different rums, and I'll explain that part. But it's also a perfect example of a style. So there's a lot of cocktails that have parts. There are 4 equal parts, 3 equal parts. There are 2-to-1s, which would be a Manhattan. There are also sours, and a daiquiri is a sour. So you can use this to make tons of stuff. This is like an easy basis for many, many cocktails, which I could use that word here for now, but I won't. Sub all these for sub this for tequila, sub lemon, some grapefruit, and you've got a whole bunch of different cocktails. Sours are 2 parts of spirit to 1 part citrus to 1 part sugar. So whether it's grapefruit or lime or lemon, that's going to be your citrus. Whether the sugar is a raw sugar or a demerara or a simple syrup or a raspberry simple syrup that you made at home or a mint syrup or a spice like clove syrup, all that will work perfectly fine on this. 2 parts instead of ounces. I like to use that because that lets you create the ratio that you want that will fit either your glass or your vessel or your afternoon. So perhaps you got a backyard in the summer and you want a big old cocktail and you want to go sit in your hammock. You don't have to necessarily follow this ounce formula, just do parts. As long as it's double to half, make a big gigantic one and fill this whole thing up, and you don't have to get back out of the hammock. So parts are useful. We're going to use the traditional recipe, which is 2 ounces of white rum to 1 ounce of lime and 1 ounce of simple. This part I know is probably going to be redundant to everyone here, but I do this at every class. This is one thing that it's essential. This is one of those other undeniable parts that I wouldn't budge on. You can't fake citrus at all. This is fresh juice stuff just for the class for you guys here. Didn't just end up in there from a bottle. The only thing that's better than that would be using a juicer, a hand presser, which is usually right there, and doing it right so if you're just making one for yourself and you got fresh fruit at home, cut the lime in half and squeeze out the amount you need. Nothing's better than that. When it comes to pressing fresh juices, we would do that for our bar here. We do everything fresh juiced and serve it within 72 hours. That means that it's at its best, its height, its peak. It's got the most acidity, the most reward for the flavor. That doesn't mean that it went bad. If you fresh pressed juice at home and you kept it in your refrigerator, which would be key as well as the vermouth, for a week or so, it's not going to turn. It's not going to go bad. It's going to lose that punch. It's going to lose that flavor. The thing that will not work would be like the lime juices you buy. I should quit talking brands, but like Rose's lime juice or brands that you buy off the shelf. They would work, but they are not close. Yeah, they are gross. It's a totally different thing. It's one of those magic things about nature that you just can't fake, and we love that kind of stuff. So the stuff that is implicitly fresh and undeniable, it matters. So I would always recommend that. If you make it with Rose's lime juice and you don't like it, don't blame me if you don't like the daiquiri if you do that. And then both for the usefulness of the class and as well as the reason I would usually use this kind of sugar, this is just simple syrup, like regular. I would let you know the container that we have our white sugar in back there says regular ass white simple syrup. That's the description. It's right on the label. This is just your white sugar, and there's a reason for that. If you use the raw sugar or demerara or turbinado we did earlier, you're going to have a drink when it comes to a daiquiri. It's going to have less of a value in its aesthetic, like its look. It's going to kind of be brown and muddy looking. Not the biggest thing in the world, but you're still going to get a flavor. It's still going to be good. It's going to have more depth of flavor. I use white refined sugar in daiquiris because it should have like a nice kind of like bright green sort of look to it. So it's more based off it not taking away from the rum, because the rum's going to have a lot of that kind of flavor already built into it that you don't need. And it lets us see both sugar sources for the class. So it does both aspects. So this is going to be a very easy one to make.
Can I ask a question about the juice?
Definitely.
So I know some lemons and limes are juicier than others.
Yeah, for sure.
Are some more sour than others? Like, should you taste your juice?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, you definitely should. And like that got asked at the last class too, and that's a good one because you will also see like key limes when it comes to limes, or Meyer lemons and different sort of versions of it, and they're going to have different flavor profiles. Like Meyer lemons are typically used more in baking, and key limes as well. They're going to have either a sweeter or more sour taste. Just stick with the limes or lemons, like the straight up versions of it, and it's going to change throughout the year. If you get them frequently, you'll see, I mean, especially lemons, they will, and lime, actually both, they will dramatically increase in size. And when it comes to lemons, sometimes they get huge, but it's the peel, and you get much less out of the actual juice on the inside. So it does change if you're using them a lot. So yeah, I would definitely taste them based on where you're sourcing them from, and that's a hard thing to manage because they're coming from all over the world. But technically the answer is always on the little sticker on there. It'll tell you the country of origin and the time of year. You'll see limes go like this big and then this size, and they also will sometimes jump up dramatically in price and change. So the year will change with the citrus source that you have, for sure. The usual component for the amount you get as a lime is about an ounce, and like maybe a little over for a lemon on the amount of juice you get out of it. But if you're hand pressing, use a jigger. And I did forget to mention earlier, the other version is the style right here. This is like OXO, which is a brand. Technically, I would call this more accurate. It's less cool. It doesn't look cool to be looking down in the top of it, doing it all the time. But these work as well. And it takes a while to train yourself to use these other types of jiggers, but it's cooler, it's smoother, and it has a nicer look.
Is there a way to extrapolate more juice?
So that doesn't count for me. Also, I'm not even sure that was accurately used, but
Is there a way to get more juice out? Like, I've seen things where they say microwave it for like 5 seconds or something.
really?
Like that, or I've read many things.
Yes, yeah, there are.
On the counter.
Yeah, if you use like a citrus reamer, like it's just just kind of like the little I don't know, like cone that you're kind of just squishing it on, you're going to probably get the least. If you use the hand press, you can get quite a bit out of that. We have the juicers that are essentially that rotate, that move, and you're going to get a lot. I think you get the most out of that, and it's definitely more efficient. Like opening the thing and doing that every single time can be a little burdensome. I would recommend one that is, you can get like the Juice Man or like the other brands that they sell at like Target and stuff. Is that you? Are you the Juice Man? That's you? You're the Juice Man? The juice is loose? You can get those for like $30 or $40. You get to the Minute Maid makes this one that's like an industrial one that restaurants and bars use, that like the jump is quick. It goes up to like 250 or so for that style. We don't even have that, and we've gotten by with the one that we use so far. It's more efficient now. And then there's a hand press, the big crank one. I think that's like the best middle ground. And the only way to really know is to test one versus the other and measure what you get. And when you do juice fresh, take it and then strain it out afterwards, because you're going to get a whole bunch of pulp. So that is an important thing that we do. When we juice it, we then strain all that pulp out, or you don't really have an accurate value on the amount of citrus that you're adding into the cocktail because that pulp is taking up that extra space. Even if you're straining it out afterwards, which I'll show you why that matters when we make this cocktail. Man, you guys are setting me up on all the segues here. All right, so this one, same as before. You're going to build in the glass, and you're going to do the secondary ingredients minus the main spirit first.
So we use the smaller part of the...
Yes. And then on the tools, this is a Boston shaker set. Anyone have a shaker set at home that is you have the picture on your diagram, the cobbler set, which is essentially like this, and it has the top and the thing. You use that.
Yeah.
How often do you do that? And you can't get that top part off.
All the time. All the time.
I highly don't recommend them. I call those like old, like supper club style. It's kind of like a casual, like sort of table side thing that existed in the 50s and so. They're weirdly always the ones sold at like stores and not the Boston shaker set, which is what this style is. If you're searching for these, it's Boston shaker set. It'll often say 18 and 28 because this is 18 ounces, this is 28. This is not something you ever see at a store. You could go to a restaurant supply store like Wasserstrom, which anyone can go to, by the way. If you ever were thinking that you have to have some card or something showing that you're in the industry, you don't. You can find these there, but otherwise you have to get them online. The reasons I recommend these are both because of that. It's very burdensome. It's because you add ice, the metal freezes, it condenses, it's hard to get off. It's really annoying. If that does happen, the ultimate is just do that, just tap it on something, but I don't like them a whole lot. You also can't build multiple cocktails in those because they have less volume. This, you could do 3 and even 4, like you could probably do 4 daiquiris in this if you really wanted. You could definitely do 3. So when it comes to bartending and art, like behind the bar, I recommend these because of that. And then you'll see they're also much more durable, and getting that part off the top is true. It happens all the time. But yeah, you build in the smaller vessel, and that's because of you want to keep the larger size available for the amount of ice you want to add to it. If you guys start this at the class, I usually say that, and someone I see filling it up the other way, it's not going to kill it. But that's the way you should traditionally do it. I keep with the traditional sour recipe, which is we're using parts, but we're going to go with ounces now since we're talking about what we're actually putting in. You got 2 ounces, 1 ounce, very easy. We often will do a daiquiri. We'll take the lime and the sugar and take it down to 0.75 ounces just because it's a little bit more boozy. It's a little bit more craft cocktail style. Try that if you like, if you think that's what you might want to go with. And you can always add again. You can't take away. So do whichever you like. I actually like a daiquiri sticking with a traditional sour recipe, which would also include the whiskey sour. All those all fit into that, except the whiskey sour is one cocktail that you would put egg white into for that froth. So you're just going to take your fresh lime and go all the way to the tippy top of the small side. Same thing with the simple syrup with white sugar. And there's you guys. And then when it comes to rum, our rum is kind of a hybrid. It's got flavor profiles of numerous things. We use jaggery now, which is a type of sugar that's made from molasses and sugar cane that's refined, traditionally associated with India. There's also panela or piloncillo that are kind of similar to this. If you get into the way we like to have a daiquiris at the end of the night here at the bar, we'll get into the Jamaican rums and the Martinique rums that have flavor profiles that are made from pressed sugar cane, like not refined at all, which will not exist anywhere else in the world. You just don't have that if you don't live in a part of the world that can grow that. But they have this vegetal note that we adore. They also are typically a bit higher proof, but our rum has both of those components, a little touch of each. If you were to use something like, say, Bacardi, which is a great distillery, their white rum, however, is kind of a forgettable thing. It's meant to be easy, clean, kind of like tasteless, odorless, and neutral, which is the definition of vodka. And I just did that totally wrong. You just out here watching. So you would take your ice on your large one, your large shaker, and you want to get the same thing, about 75-80% full, pretty much to the top. Also, as you're scooping your ice out now, just because at the class sometimes it melts a little bit in there. If you do, take it and make sure that water rinses off. Our ice wells don't do that, but if you get a bunch of extra water, you're going to overly dilute it. And then, the most fun part of the whole class, this is always a key one to watch, you're going to take this side. Obviously, you got all your stuff. You got your liquid in here, you got your ice in here, which I just messed up on because I should have liquid in here. I'm going to pour that into there, and then you want to really just put it in there. And so far, 100% success on that. One of these times I might mess up. But if you seal that good, it's going to stay upside down like that, like you're getting a blizzard at Dairy Queen. You want that seal. It's going to take that tin and kind of give it a little bow like that. And then shaking it, shake it however you want, however you're comfortable. Here's the only thing that matters. Last talk about molecules. You want them being agitated. You want them going, picture this end and this end being touched by each end of the shake. Not this, like here, someone often swirls it or kind of does this. Whatever way you're comfortable doing it that way, to this end to this end, and it would, in full motion, look like this. When you're done with that, I'll tell you why I shook it that way and why I put it in that particular angle. But you're going to have this little space on your shaker tin. That's called the sweet spot. If you don't use that, I'm telling you, you can't. Okay, that doesn't usually come out that easy. It's gonna. You will find it's tough. What you do is take that open spot and just hit it like that. You can show off by making sure you show every drop is getting in there. You just pop it. It will wear on you. And the reason we shake it over our shoulder like that is ergonomics. For one, we do it a lot, and you can get tendinitis and stuff that has happened. But the most important part is we're listening to it. You want to hear that. Picture it going from each end to each end. There you go. There, yeah. That's it. All right. I see you.
it's got a little rhythm there.
Does the man bun help anything?
Does it? Why does it just bounce all around when I'm doing it? So then, once you, and this is the key thing, to don't get ahead of yourselves yet. Those were all good. That's undeniably the best shaken set of a class I've ever had, which is expected here. No one's ever dropped it, but I've seen a lot of swirls. When pouring this out, this is a key thing. You could just use this Hawthorne strainer and pour it into here. If you do, you're going to get a bunch of ice shards on top of the glass. If you want that, go for it, but you don't. It's definitely not an aesthetic or a style that you want, and then most importantly, it's about flavor, and I'll show you why adding the drink with the strainer into the glass without a secondary strain is going to mess up your cocktail. So these are tea strainers that you all had in front of the other one. You just would hold it with your other hand. Eventually you can do this thing where you hold both, but I don't do that, so I wouldn't recommend it. You're just going to hold this tea strainer over the glass and catch all these ice shards. When you shake, you add a lot. When you stir, you don't. And I'll show you how much that would matter, because as we pour this in, see, you get this nice, it's opaque, it's got this kind of nice clear look, and you'll get a little bit of froth on the top. But if you didn't use this strainer we have right here, if you see in my hand, all that shaved ice right there, kind of that like,
Oh yeah, slush.
that would end up in your drink. It's stylistically, you don't want it, and that's one small part. Most importantly, if you left it in there, that's water that's going to continue to dilute the drink as it melts, and it's going to change the profile, the flavor of it. And then you should have a wash line this is a big coupe, so those are perfect actually. The only reason mine is a little bit is because I saved it for a second. You're going to have a little bit of space on there. The daiquiri is a cocktail that I think is truly one of the few ones. I think it's perfect just like it is. It's perfectly fine like that. However, since it's a class here and there's always useful stuff to do, the only way I would garnish it, if you were ever interested, is using, these are dehydrated limes. The advantage of this, they're mint mini, is one, it's a sustainable thing. When we have limes that we didn't juice, we were able to dehydrate them. You can do this in an oven. You can get a dehydrator you can get them for like $30 now. They're pretty easy. They're also showing up at a lot of thrift stores, but they also float on the glass, so it has a great look. The flip side of that is that I would not, if you were to take a lime wedge, which sometimes happens when you get this, often this is called a classic daiquiri, which is just to distinguish itself. I don't know where you would ever order a classic daiquiri and then get that in case you were accidentally going to get a strawberry daiquiri that was frozen out of a blender. It's not going to happen. But if you did and you got a lime wedge on the side of your cocktail, of any cocktail, what would be your instinct? What would you do with it?
Squeeze it
Squeeze
in.
it.
Yes. I don't recommend that at all. Matter of fact, I don't do it because you're going to change. You just added another probably quarter to a half ounce of lime
That's a
to
good
your
point.
cocktail, and it's going to change the whole profile of it. So.
But you have options, so if you would like more citrus, you can do that.
Yeah, you definitely could. And then, speaking of options, you guys are setting me up. This should be the class every week. There you go.
Well, I mean, we can do this if you
Most
want.
importantly, cheers, first of all.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Man,
I love these glasses so much.
these are new to this Volume 5 menu.
Yeah.
We've lost a few.
Not bad.
And plink, cheers.
Very delicate.
I always have a rotating list of my 3 favorite cocktails, like standards and classics of all time, and the daiquiri has been on it for quite a few years. The Negroni, the Last Word, and the daiquiri
Love that.
are my top 3. So I do have one left, right? When thinking of extrapolating, the
And 3.
instructions, that's it, or the flavors here, you can go a lot of different ways with this. We do a thing, we often at the end of the night have different bars I've worked at have called it different things, but we don't really have a name for the overall thing, but when we have it, we call it a snackery, which is kind of a bartender that's like a daiquiri that's in a snack sort of size and a shot, which honestly, truly, in the shot glasses we use, is not much different than a whole daiquiri. But we make it with all kinds, and you can go all over the place with this, just in the daiquiri sort of category. You could do a split base with an aged rum and a white rum. The differences between these Jamaican rums that we mentioned, like Ray and Nephew and Rum Fire and Rum Bar, are going to be much different and much higher proof. You could add like a floral secondary spirit. You could add a different bitter to it, and it would go all over the place. It's really easy to do as long as the spirit base, the rum aspect of it, is still 2 ounces and the rest is the same. It's still going to be, it's always going to work out. They really don't, it's hard to mess up.
Say what's in the Hemingway, because that's my favorite.
He uses grapefruit. Some recipes will call for grapefruit with a little bit of lime, some just grapefruit. Luxardo liqueur, which is a beloved, the last word that I just mentioned, which is probably, it's hard to, I don't have a number one. I always keep a running list of my 3 favorite classics of all time. This is made from Marasca cherries. It's from Italy. However, saying that, when it's the first time anyone's ever had it, it's definitely, I've had the experience some years ago where I describe that and someone thinks they're getting like a cherry vodka or like some sort of, it's not. It is made from that, but its flavor profile is floral. It's very, very floral, like botanical like that. And then with the grapefruit, the lime, the Luxardo. Oh, and that's it. Yeah, that's the Hemingway daiquiri. Sorry, I lost track of which cocktail I was talking about. Versus the last word. The last word is equal parts of this lime, gin, and green chartreuse, which is very, very herbaceous and it tastes like nothing else. It's hard to mimic. Also hard to get would be green chartreuse right now. If anyone is aware of this, we haven't been able to find it for something around a month and a half, 2 months. Yeah, it's nowhere.
You have some? Like yellow chartreuse is a little easier to find.
A touch easier because we have a cocktail using it, and we found 2, and we're really thrilled that we found it. Like, I don't know. I guess everyone's discovered the magic of chartreuse.
Well, I love the mezcal last word. That's one of the
Yeah. Which that's a great example of the aforementioned word that we were talking about earlier that you could use, and a frequently ordered version. That's definitely not like a segmented thing. It's not like a pocket thing. It's kind of popular. It's become a big thing that's ordered a lot. I would say I get that as much as a regular last word. It fits with it very well. How are they all good?
Delicious.
Did you just say?
Yes, I did.
That works.
Pick that up after the E from that first one.
No, it doesn't go e. It goes.
And that ended up being the right amount of bitters, I have to say.
Yeah. It's a weird. Above all with the bitters, it's committing to it. Just put it. It's not going to pour out. That woozy top is going to keep it controlled. People always just kind of go a little light. If you do and you don't think you're getting much reward of that flavor, you could go that way and add more, or just commit to the dashing. It's kind of fun. It's just like shaking a cocktail. All those things, you do it a few times and you get comfortable with the style. Although you guys, that was a good shaking set.
Sounds scary.
Well, thanks, yeah.
Well, Ayanna, Bill,
Yeah.
Cara and Eric, thank you for coming. What do you think? Would you recommend this class to the public?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This is
Oh, thanks.
fantastic.
I agree. I
Thank
think it was
you.
great. Derek, thank you so much for being
Likewise,
here.
yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks for thinking of us. Appreciate it.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Listeners, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Seabus Craft Cocktail Tour. Visit our website at columbuscraftcocktailtour.com for cocktail tour dates, women and whiskey tastings, special events, merchandise, and if you're looking for a gift for that special person in your life, get them a gift card to our cocktail tour. Thank you to the biographer for our original music. And please remember to drink responsibly and be cocktail curious. Cheers.
This has been a Last Call Productions production.